It's wonderful to do this session, and I have known about Rizwan for many, many decades, as indeed as an old Bangalorean and what connects us as Bangaloreans. And I'm just going to talk about today, before we set it up for Rizwan to make his fascinating presentation. I just want to talk about him as the man. Now, there are a few things that connect us as people who live in the city. Some of us are old Bangaloreans, we've been here for generations. Some of us have just moved in. Nonetheless, what connects us together is the space that we share. And that is the underlying current of what makes us happy, what makes us mad, and so on and so forth. Now, there are a few players who form a visible part of that connection to the city. In the media, we'd like to think that we are one of those people. There are other people over there, very, very visible. We're sitting in one, for example. BIC brings people together to connect people. And also, you can't go anywhere in Bangalore without encountering the Prestige Group. And they have built the city. They have built so much of the modern city that we look at. And I have had an association with this group for 3 decades because that's how long I've run a publication in the city and been proud to count among my advertisers the Prestige Group. So I've seen them from the very first building they built upwards. Now, what defines all of us as being Bangaloreans, as I said, is that shared space. And what defines the Prestige Group, apart from all the other builders in the city, is that essential business of identifying them as a Bangalore company. Now, over the years, I've written about how they have taken care to make sure that this building put it up in a certain way that respected the heritage of what used to be behind it. I can go on, but we don't have the time for all that. So another day, another story. But for the time being, its co-founder is whom we are here to celebrate today, and that's Rizwan Razak. Now, specifically, the reason we are here, as Sandhya said, is to listen to Rizwan talk about the rupee and the history of that rupee. And in the course of that, what I'd like to say is that Rizwan has pursued collecting every single rupee that has ever been produced in any form or fashion since it came into currency as the official currency of this land. And that goes back to the British times. Now, some of who are history buffs will know that the history, the etymology of the rupee goes back to the Arthashastra, where the etymology of the word rupee is based on rupa, which means likeness, as was what's stamped on the coin. Then Sher Shah Suri was the first to introduce it as a currency. The lights go out for a while, and then the British picked it up. And ever since then, there has been a steady history to the rupee, and that is what you'll be looking at today. Among the many things that Sandhya read out, among his achievements, as we know, we all applauded him being inducted into the IBNS, the International Banknote Society Hall of Fame. It's a big deal. It's very hard to do. He's the first Indian and indeed the first person, the first Asian to be inducted into that Hall of Fame, which doesn't happen by accident. You don't apply to be inducted. They don't have an annual inductee situation. It happens because a group of people meet, and when they feel that someone is worthy of that induction, then they do that. So it's a major achievement. The other thing that's visible and connects all of us is the museum that has been the product of Rizwan's work in this city. The work of collecting his entire passion of his collection of rupees. Most of us know, and those of us who have not visited the Rupee Museum should visit it. That's the museum, that's the name of it. You can go in there and find fascinating histories to that, as Sandhya put it, something that connects us from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and that's the currency of the currency of our connection. That's exactly what does it. In that context, there's a big definition, a big difference between collectors, and we all know collectors, and what Rizwan is, which is a completist. Now, a completist hunts down every single aspect of his collection. That means that if he knows that there's a rupee out there that he hasn't got his hands on, which was printed in 1918, and there's a slight flaw, and they only printed 100, realized their mistake and stopped, a completist will get his hands on that copy. And that is the kind of fascinating work that has defined Rizwan's passion over the years. Now, what makes it interesting for all of us here in BIC, that we've all come over here to listen to him talk? You're going to listen to the presentation, you're going to do it, you're going to ask questions at the end. But here are some insights and some underlying considerations. What is the public historian? Like, what does the museum do? Now, the museum is a place which is actually not just a lonely archive of things that you see in there, but when you go into the museum, whether alone or whether with a crowd of people, what happens is that you share a collective consciousness with everyone else who has been in that particular museum at any point in time. And that is what museums bring to us. And that is the importance of being able to have such museums. And now, the importance of a person that says, look, not only have I pursued my passion, not only have I collected everything that I've done, I've spent the time, I've spent the resources, is also that he spent the time, the resources, and importantly, the money to build a world class museum. And I say world class, I'm talking about to technical standards apart from the displays itself, as to something that we can go in and enjoy. In its demeanor, in its makeup, it is no less than any other museum that you've seen. This is what we can bring to it. And that is the collective consciousness that we share when museums happen. Now, there's a personal note. When you have something that you can share with everyone else, and that is a product of your research, you feel compelled to do so. And many of you might know that it's also been in the introduction, that I've been working on a project which is the history of Bangalore, writing the history of Bangalore. I have a podcast, and I'm very, very proud. And one of the reasons I'm here today is because when I thought of this project to bring it up, it is something that needs patronage. And you have people that can pony up patronage for the arts. It's a music festival, somebody has paid for it, etc. There are not many people left in this day and age of marketing people painting by numbers, of saying, yeah, I'm actually going to fund scholarship. Usually that's the work of funds. But when I decided to come up with the history of Bangalore, there's only one person to whom I turned, realizing that there's only one person of connect that I can do. So I didn't go to anybody else. I went straight to Rizwan and I said, here's the deal. This is what I'm looking to do. No questions asked. And no questions asked since. So as far as I'm concerned, it's been a year and it's been a very successful podcast, thankfully. And we've got all sorts of accolades and so on. And I have Rizwan Razak to thank for it. And I'd like you to share me in my public expression of thanks to him in his support. Now, the litany of the awards that Rizwan has won for the work that he has done starts in 2010. And right from 2010, I've got an entire list over here. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Please Google it. And there's a lot of achievements. I'm going to pick up a few of those. Like, for example, the first of the awards in 2010 was an achievement award for the significant contribution to the advancement of numismatic knowledge, right? That was a journal article about the banknotes of Portuguese India. Gives you a sense of what's coming. There's a literary achievement, the Fred Phillipson Award, an honorable mention for his journal article on the 100 rupee portrait of King George VI. Fascinating story. I've seen this presentation. It's fascinating. You'll love it. Right up to now, there's an entire lot of things every single year almost from 2010 right up to this year when he was inducted to the IBNS Hall of Fame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the way as fast as I can, having made the introduction about him, and let Rizwan make the presentation to you. And at the end of it, I'll be back, and I'm going to claim dibs on asking the first questions before we throw it open to the public. So with that, please join me in welcoming Dr. Rizwan Razak to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see such a nice crowd. Today I also have here Mr. Vivek Matai. He's come from Bombay. And I also have a few friends who have, I see in the back, one is from Jodhpur, etc. And it's a great feeling. I'm standing here today only because of Ramji. He's the one who said, Rizwan, I think you need to do a talk on this, but make it interesting. So I thought that I will try my best to make sure that you will get some good facts and anecdotes of Indian paper money. See, when you say British India, it goes way back to the way back to 1800s when the first banknote of paper money came through the East India Company. We were divided into three presidencies: the Bombay Presidency, Calcutta Presidency, and the Madras Presidency. This went on till 1861, and when the Government of India notes started. But before that, it was the early banknotes of private and presidency banks. A private bank was established in 1770, and most likely because I have not seen a note earlier than 1812. 1812 was the first note that came in. It's dated 3rd September 1812, 250 Sikka rupees, because Sikka denotes a coin, and the note is numbered as 108, so it couldn't have been more than that. And strangely, the lowest denomination in those days was 4 rupees. And I'll tell you the reason why. And they also had denominations like 4, 5, 8, 14, 15, and 16. This you will I will come to that after you see this. This is the first colored note using William Congrave's compound plate printing technique. Uh, it had the personified Ganga on the left and a mahout on an elephant. This is the 4 rupee note, 4 rupee note, Bank of Hindustan, and it says promises to pay the bearer the sum of Sikka rupee. Sikka in real terms was a coin, and the coin could have been silver or gold. Now I'll give you the valuation because I've just met a gentleman, Mr. Khan, is it? There he is, and he wanted to know how do you value, and I'll give a little explanation. So it's going to be interesting for all. And this is the silver rupee, and this is the gold mohur. So 16 of the silver coins gave you one gold mohur, and the weight of that coin was 11.78 grams, and 11 or 7.66. So the 16 silver coins gave you one gold mohur. So what really happened is that's the only way we can equate today's value to the earlier value, how things have depreciated. Uh, so if you revert back, that means 16 rupees was 11.66 grams, or 1.4 rupees for a gram. And today, 1 gram is some 9,500. So it's very easy now. If somebody said I had a salary of 125, convert that into gold, and now convert it today, then you know how the values have come down. And why 4 rupees is 4 rupees, 8 rupees, 16 rupees. As I told you, 16 rupees gave you one gold mohur, and half a gold mohur was 8 rupees, and quarter was 4. And strangely, till 1951, we were also doing rupees and a spice, where the 16 annas made a rupee. They followed the British system of pound shilling and pence, where 16 shillings also uh, was equal to 1 pound. So we had these three presidency banks in Bengal, Bombay, and Madras, who had their notes. There were prominent vignettes that were depicted in the designs, and serial numbers evolved from handwritten to printed. But one interesting fact is that these notes had, note numbers and date on either side of the note. They were on either side. The reason was that a note was cut in half or torn in half and sent to the receiver, maybe in the same city or city which was not there by whatever. And then when he received and he acknowledged receipt of the half note, the second half was sent by post, joined together, and then they encashed it. That was how it was done. And there's also stories where sometimes that note, half a note only was received and the second half was lost. So what they did was they only paid half the value. If it was a 10 rupee note and half was received, they would only pay 5. and somebody still insisted that they want the entire 10, then it had to be a notification, it had to be gazetted, and only then and an indemnity taken that in case somebody comes and claims the other half, he is liable to pay it. So the Bengal presidency got established in 1806 and it was there till 1921. Why 1921? Is because that's when it merged and became the State Bank of India. All of these became State Bank of India in 1921. But however, there's a story before this. Queen Victoria told, said, we don't want we don't want these presidency banks to be say giving paper and taking gold and taking that gold and lending money and making money. So the sole monopoly of issuing a banknote should rest with the government of India. Anyway, um, Bengal presidency banknote comprised of notes from these banks. From Bank of Hindustan, they had all these banks where there were many other banks, but however, these are the banks where notes have been seen, who have observed, who were issuing banknotes. This is the note I was talking of, 3rd September 1812, and the note is numbered 108. And you can see also it's torn in the middle. So obviously it was sent somewhere, it's got joined together, uh, and these were uniface notes, meaning there's nothing printed behind, and on not a very thick paper as well. And this note is there in the museum, and if anyone wants to see it, you'll be pleased to see it physically. It's there, and later on, like I said, from handwritten notes, they became printed numbers and printed dates. So you'll see the date. Sorry, the date is also there, but I'll show you the one. The date is there. The dates are cut in half. You cut in half, you know that there are two, 14999 and 14999. And then these were images that showed, uh, they were all like the cornucopia is there. Everything had a meaning. Uh, uh, to show that it was a image of the goat's horn of plenty overflowing with fruits, vegetables, and grain to represent a bountiful harvest. The Assam was the rhino, Kaziranga. Huh? So each of these things had some meaning when it came, and the rhino was the Assam, steam sailboat was Hooghly River representing Bengal, the tomb of Seshar Suri, you can see at the back, and the elephant symbolizing the remaining provinces. So nothing was done by chance. These people thought about everything before they had these fabulous looking notes. This is the full note, and if you see there are two dates. This Calcutta in between. It is 18th December 1857. These were actually the first colored underprint notes. The Bombay Presidency had these banks: a Bank of Bombay, Bank of Western India, Oriental Bank. Like someone asked me today, what is the latest thing? Something that fascinating. Just very recently, couple of months ago, the Oriental Bank, a 10,000 rupee note was located. It came off auction in one of the auction houses in UK. We had the what do you call? These were the colored underprints of Bank of Bombay, the town hall, and we had Malcolm on one side and Mr. Elephantstone, the governors of Bombay, on either side of the note. Town hall is still there. This located in Fort Bombay, overlooking the Horniman Circle Garden and the Reserve Bank. It was built in 1830, and now it serves as the home for the Asiatic Society of Bombay. These are the two governors, Malcolm and Elephantstone. And if you see, this is also a very high value note of 10,000. And I think in those days, in the 1800s, it was only probably used by bank to bank. I don't think any individual could carry this much money because that amounted to one nearly a kg of gold. Oh no, 100 kgs of that. So you can imagine how much it was in terms of value, because uh, 1.14 is 1 gram, so it's 10,000 grams of gold nearly. Again, uh, Madras presidency also starts in 1843, ends in 1921, because all these three banks merged and it became the State Bank of. First, it became the Imperial Bank and then the State Bank of India. And these were the uh, Asiatic Bank, Madras Government Bank, and Bank of Madras. But their denominations are little different to the ones in Bombay and in Bengal presidency. The reason being their rate was, even though it is 500 rupees here, if you see the next note, we have Governor Sir Thomas Monroe on his horse, and that's still there in Chennai. These notes were actually not there at all. Very recently, maybe 4 5 years ago, they came out from State Bank of India. The building got burnt, and the insurance was claimed for it. And along with the insurance as whatever is there, it goes to them. So when they went to clean up the basement, they found not they found the people that went to clean up found all these files and whatever, and in that came those uh, in that came these notes. Till then, there were only some specimens that were there in the British Museum. But post this, a whole lot of these notes came out. Some came whole, some came in part, some came only half note, etc. And if you see uh, like I told you, in 1861, after the 1857, what happened was there's a Sepoy mutiny, and the East India Company was taken over by the Crown. And the first thing Queen Victoria did was to send somebody and said, please start your own currency. And they had an act saying that it prohibited anybody else other than the government of India to print notes. So since then, it's only the government that handles it, and no private or public bank print their own money. So the British were there from 1857 till 1947, when we got independent. And the first note had the vignette of Queen Victoria, also a uniface note. This is what it looked like. And some were dual circle, meaning that this is Karachi and spelled Kurachi, and Bombay, and it had to circulate within that region itself. We couldn't take this note and go to Calcutta and use it, or Madras and use this note to exchange. These were uniface. The circle of issue was printed on the notes. Initially, along the notes with a single circle of issue, some uniface note had dual circles. There are diverse references are seen for few circles of issue. They're spoken in the British language, British English. Karachi for Karachi, Kanpur for Kanpur. Later, each circle of issue was assigned a specific alphabet, the prefix alphabet. That's what it means. Eventually, in 1910, they became universal. So you could have a note and you could use, like how we are using freely, we can use it from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. This is also a dual circle note. Post the Victoria portraits, what happened was we got what they call as the red underprint notes, which was there for a very short time, only for a few years, and then got changed to the green underprint. Sorry, then came to a red underprint. And the first 5 rupee note, it was the lowest denomination, was in 1871. And this is also a dual circular issue, Calicut or Madras. That means you could exchange this money only within the confines of these two cities. another Karachi of Bombay, 20 rupees. And we had various currency officers that signed the notes. These actually came from England, printed in Bank of England, came to India, and they were sent by ship but unsigned. They came without signatures. I'll show you one unsigned note. Uh, and the signature was affixed in the place where it landed in India itself. And on the currency officer or currency manager or governor, whatever you call, who was on the chair that day. So you'll have very, same denomination in the same date with many different signatories. One of the things that many people don't know that was that if you had the date as 26 May 1902, till they finished the entire GA 16 1 lakh, the date remained the same. The date remained the same, but in one date you'll have two, three guys signing. It's only because first 20,000 came, the next 20,000. So whoever, and also whoever was there, and these got printed in England, came here and issued maybe much later. So whoever was on the chair at that time, he signed it. Only 5 rupees was small. The rest of the notes were all the same. So they said, how to know if somebody is giving 100 notes whether they are same or not? So they had indexation marks like you have in the old telephone book. This is just to differentiate. Can you see that little kink? People think it's a defect. It's not. If you had the other note, the kink is on top or somewhere below. So you know that there is something wrong. So if it is 50 rupees, that indexation has to be through and through. But all notes were not indexed as well. See now this 10,000 had an indexation on top. I was asked this question earlier today about this 1 rupee, that since the 5 rupees was the lowest denomination, and they needed because of the First World War, the shortage of metal, so they needed they needed to substitute paper for the metal. So in 1917 was when the 1 rupee was introduced. So it's only in just few 100 plus years only since you have the 1 rupee. And the first 1 rupee also came in booklet form with the portrait of George the Five. See, this was the coin in 1917. And as I said, 25% of these 1 rupee notes were issued in a booklet of 25. And they also came in packets of 100 like we do, but they were not stapled. This is what it looked like, the 1 rupee. And to make it popular, they made the booklet, which will come here. This is how it looked, like a checkbook. You tear it and then give it. And it also had a red cover, and if you open inside, it also carried advertisements. 2 annas 8, representing 2.5 rupees, was also issued at the same time as 1 rupee. A lot of people say it was because that was the value of £1 to 1 rupee. It wasn't. Just that there was a discussion. I've read the whole correspondence. They did want to have a 2 rupee, a denomination between 1 and 5. They wanted something lower, so they thought of 2 rupees. But somebody said, let's do 2.5. It becomes exact half. And also because I think since ruled by the British, they also had a £2 8 shilling note at that time. So they said 2.5, but it was there for a very short time, maybe 4 5 years, and afterward it was not even accepted, and it was selling uh, at a reduced value. If you took a 2.5 rupee note, you didn't get the full 2.5 rupees. You got some 5% less when you exchanged it. This is what it looks like: rupees 2, annas 8. This is the first 50 rupee note. Of course, there was a 50 rupee note in the Uniface series, but in the portrait uh, series with King George the Five, this was and they had the circular issue at the bottom. You can see Calcutta. but they were also very clever because V4 means Calcutta. It was no other. Only Calcutta will have V4. So they had some magic numbers, but we've deciphered it. 100 years later, we've deciphered that uh, you will not get a V4 in Bombay or V4 in Calcutta. You will only have in Rangoon or Madras or whatever. Similarly, mm, uh, this is a Bombay note, and one of the interesting things about this note is that this is the only note in Indian paper money that doesn't have a title. The government of India, like this one, is missing. The government of India is got they got a title on top. The title is missing in this 100 rupees. But there is government of India because he says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 100 rupees on demand at any office of issue. Uh, After King George V died, came uh, uh, Edward VIII, his older son. I'll tell you the story of him. Why he you don't find him and you find his younger brother George. Even though they looked alike, but the difference was that the earlier brother, the King George, Edward VIII, was only there for 1 year. I'll show you an interesting fact. So when he died in 1935, they made a thing for watermark. If you see, his face looks very similar to his younger brother. Okay, now I'll tell you the story. It's very nice and very interesting. So anything, this watermark was made in Nasik and sent to England for the approval by the king. So I'll read out. He says, I have laid before the king a photograph prepared by Messrs. Portal. Portal were the guys that are in for making the watermark paper in England. For the purpose of the watermark portrait of His Majesty to be used in the new designs for Reserve Bank of India notes. Because once the monarch dies, they have to get a new monarch's face. His Majesty approves this photograph being used as a basis for such a watermark. They approve it, but hopes that something will be done to make whatever he is supposed to be wearing look less like a bath towel. It looks like a bath towel. I imagine that there is no difficulty in this. So what they did was they took it off and they said, okay, this is what we'll do. And they gave him a nice robe with a lot of jewels on his chest so that, because that was him. This is his brother. So the watermark got changed. That looks less than like a bath towel to something that is more imperial and majestic looking. And now I can tell you a little story about Edward VIII. He was there only for 1 year, but before all this got done, I think this is the only note. It's called a register print that is exists in the world because it came from the designer's album. There's nothing left because they even whatever was there they destroyed it because they were so angry because he married Wallace Simpson. When he married Wallace Simpson, she was a divorcee. So uh, they said that if you're going to continue or wanting to marry her, that means you're going to be dethroned. So he abdicated his monarchy and he married Wallace Simpson and went to France and lived there. So it's the only case in the history of the world where a monarch gave up his kingdom for the love of his life. And just to show you how spelling is changed after the British went, this is post 1947, that is pre Kanpur and Kanpur. Reserve Bank got born in 1935. Strange, isn't it? Before even the independence, Reserve Bank was there in 1935, and it became the uh, central note issuing authority. And the government of India empowered RBI the issuance of Indian currency notes. But strangely, they also could only issue notes from rupees 5 to whatever denomination, even up to a lakh. 1 rupee was kept with the Secretary of Finance as a note that meant it was under the government of India and not with the Reserve Bank. There was no 2 rupees. And the first, actually, I'll tell you about the 2 rupees. I'll show you the picture. The first note printed in India and for Reserve Bank was in 1938. And this was what the note looked like. But the paper for this came from portals in London. The note was printed in India in Nasik in 1938 under the banner of Reserve Bank of India. So I was telling you about the 2 rupees. They had to have a act of parliament because under the act of RBI they could only print from 5,000 to 5 rupees to a lakh. So they had to get this act passed in the parliament to issue the 2 rupees. Strangely, the, uh, in 1946 there was the demonetization. A lot of people think the demonetization happened in 2016. It happened prior to us becoming independent because at that time there was no 5,000, but there was only 1,000 and 10,000 and 500. These got demonetized in 1946 to curb black money, but they say not very effective. And a crore and 25 lakhs was what didn't come back to the exchequer to exchange the notes. This was the 2 rupee uh, 2 rupees that was issued in 1943. This was the note that got demonetized in 1946. And if you see, it has Lahore. I brought it, so I wanted to show that, Pakistan was part of India, British India, until we got separated in 1947. Like Pakistan, India notes were also used in Burma because the British ruled Burma and they didn't have their own money. So they were using government of India notes and they were overprinted in Burma. The Indian same notes that what we were using in India and what they were using in Pakistan, then Pakistan, which is part of India. I'll show you what it looks like. And the Reserve Bank of India is the only bank to issue and manage banknotes for two countries simultaneously for in a civilian rule. So what they did was they took a 5 rupees and on top they wrote legal tender in Burma only. That means this could only be exchanged in Burma and not in India. Later on, after the Japanese took over Burma and then they came back, then we had the Burma Currency Board, which is much later in 1943. But the Burmese were very mad. They were very angry that they didn't have their own money, and they had a uh, they had a note which had Reserve Bank of India, and they said, you had the black overprint. That black overprint is also done in such a way that it can't be read. So they changed the black to red overprint so that it becomes more clear. And then they said we should have our own money, so they had what they call as the peacock notes. These were the peacock notes. But however, the title is Reserve Bank of India. And if you read it at any office of issue in Burma, the peacock is prominent below that. And all denominations had the peacock. Of course, what happened was they were asked to get out from Burma in 1946 before we became independent. So Burma started getting their own money, and Reserve Bank had nothing to do with paper money at all. Of course, there are many instances where the money was exchanged to the Reserve Bank of India notes were exchanged to their local money up to 1960. What happened is 14th August 1947 is when we became two countries. Pakistan got independence first, and then we got independence on the 15th. But Pakistan didn't have any notes, it wasn't ready at that time. So what they did was they used the British India note and overprinted in the watermark area Government of Pakistan or Hukumat of Pakistan. And these were in circulation till 1948. Early 1948, that is June, they had the contract to be there till for 1 year up to August. But I think the tensions is so much they're also told to go. And this is what it looked like. It was the same money that was used in India, and same money was used in Pakistan with a change. The overprint was there actually. They used an amended plate, and these were also printed at Nasik and sent to Pakistan at that time. Strangely, whatever, no one talks about these, but we were also colonized by two countries, the Portuguese and the French. The French are popularly known to be in Pondicherry, and of course, the Portuguese are popularly known to be in Goa. So they first issued notes with the Department of Public Finance or Junta da Fazenda Publica, and then they said we don't want individual countries to have the individual notes. So they had a bank called Banco National Ultramarino, National Bank Overseas, situated in Taiwan. Wherever they had colonized, whichever part of the world the Portuguese had, they had notes that were titled with the title Banco National Ultramarino. Only the denominations changed. For example, here you have rupees in India. Like that, they had denominations like dollars or whatever in the countries there were there. This was the earliest banknote for the Portuguese, which was Department of Public Finance. 1906, they came and said, no, let's have the notes, very good looking notes. Mermaid. And I was lucky to get. I think the guy, when they printed, they had four denominations: 10, 20, 50, and 5. 5, 10, 20, and 50. When they made the thing notes, the guy who was the signatory pulled out all the four notes and kept it in his drawer. And I think 100 years later, came to the museum. And all are numbered as 001. All notes are zero. And these were hand signed by the vice governor and the agent. And I had a problem identifying the signatories, the names, and who was there and what is their name. We even tried to get hold of some guy at Goa who was a handwriting expert to identify the names of the signatories, but we couldn't till finally I had to go to Lisbon. Lisbon, and I found some guy who was a researcher, and he said, "Don't worry, Mr. Rizwan, I'm going to give you all the signatories' names. We have record of it." And that's how we got it in 2012. We published the names. In fact, my book was the first book in the world to publish the names of the agents and the governors or the administrators. And everyone since has followed it for the other countries as well. So you can see this. Very difficult to make out the name, but the names are there in the book. And when they in 1961, when they went, there was a small little war, and when the Portuguese left Goa, two things happened. One is they burned the notes. Second is they exchanged it for Indian money. Uh, so when they exchanged it for Indian money, so put they put holes in between. Only the 5 rupees was the note without the hole. We had also very unique denominations here. 60. That is because that is 5 rupees. So 12 scudos gave you 5 British India notes in those days. So you had even a note denomination like 300. I told you that they burnt it. So these were burnt after exchanging them for the British India money. This was not fully burnt, so they have salvaged it and gone again to get an exchange. So somebody says burnt note, payment refused. Thank you. You can take it back. Same thing. These were the notes that were seized during the war. It has a seal called New Low, blue at the front and red at the back, or red in the front and blue at the back, and signed by whatever, saying that these were the notes that were seized by the Indian government or Indian people during the war and not to be encashed. And they had a number. It has a number on top, which signifies they had a register where they made sure that these were all. But now you ask me how I got it, I don't know. Somebody brought and gave it to me. When I say gave it to me, it is just that they know the passion that I had. And this is the question I keep getting: where do you get it from? I don't move. It comes to me. It comes to me. Or they'll come and ask me, is it good? Is it nice? Like Mr. Matai, he says, his granddad was the second finance minister of India. Yeah. So he also brought something and showed me that, this is what my grandfather had. So like that, we connect. I was telling a story before you all came that there was a gentleman by name P.B. Chitnis who was awarded the Padma Shri. He was like a designer at the Nasik Press. After he finished, he moved to his son who was living in Kenya. I met him a couple of years back. Of course, not Mr. Chitnis, he passed. And I was interacting with him to give all his material that is there. He said, no, it's government material, I can't give. I said, it's going to the museum. It's lost its relevance. Nothing. And finally, when I went there, he gave it to me. And we were going to have it displayed in the museum. But as luck would have had it, he died 6 months ago. If I hadn't gone, that wouldn't have come to India at all. Maybe somebody would have taken and it would have gone into some album. Then we had the Indo-French notes. Even these were issued by a bank called de Indochine. Same thing the French did, like the Portuguese. They had a bank that issued notes for their territories, wherever they had colonized. And if you see, it also has Tamil and Telugu, English. Then the only princely state that was given permission to have the note was the Nizam of Hyderabad, maybe because he was the friend of the British. Uh, got the Maharaja of Mysore very upset, saying that, I have a bigger state than he has. I should also be allowed. But he wasn't. So these were, of course, it happened in 1917 when the 1 rupee story I told you about the shortage of metal. This they were allowed and they got the notes printed in by Waterloo and Sons in UK, and they were the only princely state to uh, get notes. And this is what it looked like: huge notes. Of course, there's a story of this. Every note of this has a coat of arms, as early as 1917. And if you see that button-looking thing there in the middle, that actually is a kulcha. It's a kulcha. It's a food. And what happened was when the first Asif Jah won was hungry and there was a lot of problem. He went into the forest. When he went into the forest, there he met a saint who offered him rest and offered him some food. So he gave him kulchas and he ate seven. So he said, you're going to last for seven generations. So the last Nizam was the seventh Nizam of Hyderabad. And from then on, they had issued that they used the kulcha in their coat of arms. So there were two types. One was the one here you see is the Hyderabad coat of arm, and there is a this is the coat of arms of Hyderabad, and that is the coat of arms of there is the royal coat of arms on the top. Of course, the top has a lot of writing in English and in Arabic about the Nizam, because he's the one. Usman Ali is called Usmania Sikka because Usmania is the Nizam. His name was Usman Ali. So when it came out in 1960, 1000 rupiah Sikka Usmania. There were also some notes. I call it notes of the princely state of Kashmir. There was only one issue, starting from 1 rupee up to 100 rupees. But I don't think they were paper money. They were made of paper, but I think these are money that was used for government paying repayment, revenue payment dues. And the sun emblem is prominently displayed with the word Sirkar. These were all handmade on very, paper that was not made for notes, but paper like, you have bond paper with a watermark. They had a specific company that I think sent the paper to India, and on that paper they use this. You'll find this also very interesting that the notes in Saurashtra. Has anyone heard of Hawala? Hawala is the money transfer from A location to B location. But physically, the money doesn't get transferred. It's only that note is given as a token, and in those days they used to send by post. Now they send it by WhatsApp, and you take that note and give it, and that person gives you the money. Again, it was because of shortage of, and they also used to call it the Morvi State Hawala, and that's where the word Hawala got coined. And where one can transfer a particular amount from one location to another without any physical movement of money. So if this 50 rupees had to be paid, we only had to send the note to Ramji in Bombay, and Ramji would take this note and give the 50 rupees in coins of gold. And we also had the 36th military state in the northwest part of India were also given permission to issue coupons, which are made in paper. Some look like old platform tickets, but very small denominations. One pice is 1 bar 192 of a rupee, because 6 pice made 1 paisa, and the highest was 1 rupee, 1 pice to 1 rupee. Prisoner of war coupons. Prisoner of war coupons. These are very interesting. In fact, we did one uh, Instagram reel together with Ramji. These coupons were given to the prisoners that were stationed in India. We had prisoners from Italy, Germany, Japan. Japan, because they were caught in Burma and brought to India, etc., etc. There were different places where they had these coupons. We had one camp in Bangalore as well, in Jalhali. I think thanks to him, the Jalhali Museum contacted me saying, "Sir, I need one coupon. We want to put it up in our museum." So I made a frame and gave it to them. And these, why do they need money? Because they're the guests of the government. They're not criminals. They have to be looked after. They have to be fed, given food. They have to be clothed. They have to be given shelter. But why coupon and why not the real money? The real money is if you give them, they feel that they would take it and bribe. But why do you pay them? You don't need to pay them. The reason for paying a prisoner of war is that you can't motivate him to do work. So he needs to. They used to make him use these people to make bridges, dams, buildings, etc., etc. Okay, what does he do with this money? He uses this money, go to the canteen, and buy things, postcard, cigarette, things of which government is not bound to give to them for free. So this is an incentive or motivation for them to. This is what it looked like. Mm. So they were from half an hour to 10 rupees. And we also had some prisoners from the Anglo-Boer War of 1899. That war lasted for 2 years in South Africa. They brought them to India and and Sri Lanka as well. This is the this was the 10 rupee POW camp, and if you see it's Trichinopalli, and in I think there was a camp located in Kaiti in Nilgiris. I was recently there 3 months ago in South Africa. So somewhere this Anglo-Boer story came up. Then when I started telling me, they looked like as if he's the guide or I'm the guide. Then I told him I have 10 rupees. He said it's not possible. So I said it's possible. He said why? Why? I asked him why it's not possible. He says there's only one 5 rupee in the whole of South Africa which is lying in a museum. I said I have all denominations. You're welcome to come. You can see this. It's lying in the museum in Bangalore. Then I showed him a picture. So he said, "Can you share it?" I said, "It's on the website. You can have it." This was the. This is how the coupon looked like. This is a camp in Clementown, Dioli. Then you have something called Yol. That's where they play cricket now. You'll find it interesting because what happened is because all the notes came from England to India. They were sent by ship, obviously, and some notes got sunk for various reasons. Either it was weather or whether it was the German U boats that sunk it. And Only thing was that the notes were not signed there. They were unsigned and they would come to India. And the signature was put here just for sake of safety. So these are the 7 instances of currency notes of India that were lost at sea during transit. The 10 rupees uniface, the 10 rupees 5 and 10 uniface, the 1 rupee King George for 5 notes, the 5, 10 and 100 of Hyderabad, and the watermark paper and cut sheets. And also just now, we've found some information that even in the SS Egypt, there were some uniface notes. And I also have the prefix numbers also. They were all packed in zinc sheets, but I think they're totally lost because no one ever found them. So some were salvaged and some, like the uniface notes that some were in the SS Egypt, were never found. This is the disintegrated remain of a salvaged 10 rupee. And if you see here, this is we sank in SS Shirala. A stands for Kanpur, but no sign, and the paper was intact. Same thing with the Hyderabad notes. Of course, there's a big story. They found this after 12 years. Not, yeah, they had to salvage after 12 years after the ship sank somewhere in 1920, 1932. They pulled it out. And of course, at a depth of 400 feet, which they said it's impossible for any human to ever bring it up. And I'm currently writing a book on this Hyderabad notes. I thought, I'll finish it just like that. It's now 2 years still struggling. So, but it will happen very shortly. We'll have the book release and there's going to be a book launch. And what you see, the mark is that some 18,000 notes they couldn't find, and some what they kept as souvenirs were sealed like this and given to people as souvenirs. The remaining notes were given to the. It was bought back by the Nizam of Hyderabad because those notes were coming to Hyderabad and causing a problem. So they paid a certain amount of money to the salvage team and took those notes and destroyed them. This was also a watermark paper that sank, blank watermark paper, which sank in SS Breda, which was the 5 rupees and 10 rupees. Now we come to from where we started, that is 1947 to the current period. What happened was what they did simply was they removed the image of the monarch, and then they said, let's have the lion capital of Sarnath to be the image. It was there for many years, this lion capital, instead of having. They first wanted to do Mahatma Gandhi, but I think there were a lot of problems, and they wanted many others to be there. Subhash Chandra Bose, Ambedkar, etc., etc. They said it's getting too complicated. Let's worry about other things. Let's not have political problems in the beginning. So they said, this is the safest. So in 1949 only we got the 1 and 10. Till then we were using the British India notes, and all other denominations came in 1950 only. This was the first K.R.K. Menon. You knew that, sir? Vivek, K.R.K. Menon was the Secretary Finance. And 1 rupee is the only note that is issued by the Government of India. 2 upwards up to 10,000 is Reserve Bank of India. C.G. Deshmukh was there, the governor, but he also was there during the British time in 1946. He signed British India notes as well. In 1954, after the demonetization in 1946, 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 were reintroduced, and these got demonetized in 1978. Indira Gandhi's period. This is what they look like. I used to be in the shop, and we had these planters from Coorg who would carry this. They were very proud. They used to also have fancy cars those days, and he would come and buy for 600 rupees. You have to give him change. There was no change in the box. And we had to go to the neighbors and say that, okay, I'll return it tomorrow. 2-3 shops would total to the 4,400, and he would take it. But these were also known as register note because if the gentleman parted with this, he had to take his name, number, address, signature, and then only give him the change. And next day when you banked it, same thing. We had to have a separate challan. The challan we had to go fill it up, not along with the rest of the cash that would go New Delhi. They shifted the capital from Calcutta to New Delhi, and this happened at that time. This is also another very interesting thing that from 1959 to 1956, the notes of Government of India and Reserve Bank of India were in circulation, printed in India, but of the same note but in a different color for use in the crucial and Gulf states of Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Muscat, and Oman. And to have an identification, they had notes with the prefix Z. If you see a Z11, and this was the same note, which was purple in color. Only thing, note change. But in the 1 rupee, there is no difference. But if you see in the other denomination, the 5 rupees, uh, HVR Iyengar, the Z3 was there. But then, if you see here at payable at the office at Bombay, it's 5 rupees, and at the office of issue at Bombay. So these were sent from there. It came for exchange. Uh, Now, what happened was actually de facto India was these guys used to take our money to the Gulf, buy gold, and bring it here and sell it at a profit. That's how the gold smuggling came. Uh, to stop that only, they brought these notes of these different colors. So they told the government that don't use our green notes or whatever notes. Only these notes have to be used with the Z prefix, and those only can be uh, circulated in the country. Same thing with the Hajj notes. That was in 1959, uh, and that was only for 1 year. The same thing they would do. Hajis were given some money to take there for their expense. Uh, the Indian government was very, very strict about foreign exchange, etc., etc. But these guys used to smuggle and take some notes to the for Hajj. Change that to Real. From Real, they would change it to pounds and bring the pounds and sell it here. In that, they had they used to make some money, and this they came to know. They said, "Now we need to stop it." So they said, "Let's issue this note." Same thing, but in blue color. They had Hajj written on top. Uh, but however, very interesting thing is that after 1959, conversion started. The foreign exchange rate started. So somebody took Indian rupees and changed it to real, and then that real changed it to pound and bring it back. They lost maybe 5-7% or 10% in exchange. So the need for this note stopped, and it was only for that 1 year in 1959. They also had the 100 rupees, and this probably is the most wanted note in a collector for a collector. But of course, this is a specimen. But the issued notes, I think some 100,000 were issued. Every collector wants to have one. This is the holy grail of Indian paper money. We also had I don't know if many people know, in 1969, we had the only commemorative issue with Mahatma Gandhi. He came first time in 1969, but not in the front of the note, but in the rear of the note. This was to celebrate his birth centenary. This was the 1 rupee. This was designed by my friend, Mr. P.V. Chitness, who was also a coin guy. He was in Nasik Press. He designed the coin, but the rear of the note was this one, and this was designed by a gentleman, Subba Krishna, in Nanjangud. He was the one he was even paid. There was a competition, and he was paid 1,000 rupees to and his paintings, whatever he submitted to Reserve Bank, when he those paintings are lying in the museum. Yeah. So the same note that was there in circulation at that time, this had many people would have seen this, had the image of a boat that was taken off for 1 year, and then Mahatma Gandhi sitting in Sevagram was here. Up to 100 rupees. After 1978, when the demonetization happened for the 1,000 and whatever, 100 rupees was the highest denomination in circulation at that time. And 500 came, 500 was taken off in 1946. So in 87, with Mahatma Gandhi, M. Gandhi, they called him. Then they changed it to Mahatma Gandhi later. M.K. Gandhi. I don't know if many people know that this note is still not demonetized. If you still have these, the Reserve Bank will exchange it for the current value, face value. It is only the ones that were printed post 1998. Those are the ones that got demonetized. So if anyone wants to sell it to me at 20% value, I'm happy to take it. It is, yeah. It's, yeah, like 2,000 rupees. It is not demonetized. It is only getting phased out. Same thing. They said that this note is phased out. It wasn't demonetized. So this doesn't count to be in that demonetized category. What is in the demonetized category? I'll show you. This note was printed overseas when that thing happened between 78 and 1998 or 87. There was a huge pressure on the currency, and the press, there were only two, one at Nasik, one at Devas. They couldn't manage, so they printed some 1 million notes in 3 banks overseas. Of course, there's a big hue and cry that you did it overseas and whatever. Of course, and then they added 2 more press, one in Mysore and one in Salboni. Both these are owned by the Reserve Bank, and they only print paper money. The other ones do passports, etc. That is, Salboni and Devas do security. Anything that is related to paper but security things are printed with them, including this is the one that got demonetized. Then because of that time, they needed a short time to make up for that 500 and 1,000. So they said, okay, let's print 2,000. They said high denomination. They printed a higher denomination. And when the flag happened, they said, okay, let's phase it out. We don't want it. And we also had something called, this was the symbol as well, the symbol of the rupee, which you see the rupee symbol happened. And this was a 500 rupee with the red pot. But if someone has a UV light, and if you put the UV light on the flag, it glitters. And if you notice the number of this note, 7 digits is 1 million. This is the last note of that series. 7 digits. This is also 7-digit note. And I don't know if you still know that still they exchange it at face value only. It's not that it's gone. There are 19 locations in India where they exchange it at face value. Many people think it's demonetized and they forgotten about it. You don't need to forget. You get money back. And 200 was added later as a compromise. Luckily, they didn't put 250 like the British, 2.5 rupees. And I appreciate and acknowledge all courtesies extended to me today, and convey my gratitude to the entire organization team at BIC. This is the book that happened in 2012, and then 2017 this one, and then shortly, hopefully, 2025 is the book on Hyderabad, and then you're going to do a book on Portuguese India and the French India. And this is the museum. This is a museum. I think all of you should take time off, go see the museum, you'll enjoy it. Take your children, some photos of the museum as well. I was told that, there's a cutoff time of 8, and Mr. Ramji needed that 15 minutes. I hope I did well on time. Thank you very much.
So I was going to say something in the beginning when I made the introduction, but I thought that I should say this after you have a chance to see why I'm saying it. And that is that once you have seen what this museum represents and everything that Rizwan represents, it's a little hard not to be effusive, although I'm not by nature an effusive individual. But you can understand the breadth and the scope of everything that he has done so far. And much as he likes to be modest, it's not as though he sat in one chair and all the notes came flying down. He hunted it down in different corners of the world, in different places. So, before I launch into my first question, wouldn't be out of place to say that here's a man who will do anything for a rupee.
Absolutely right. I would do. And like he says, when he showed those images of the Portuguese 1906 notes, he got an email from a gentleman from Lisbon saying that, he has these. Instantly, I knew these were not fake, they were real. And he wanted to sell them. So I said, I would. But only thing is, he could speak Portuguese and I could speak English or Hindi, maybe even Kannada. But unfortunately, it was a problem. And I had to find someone. I put a request in Facebook saying, I need someone who can help me speak Portuguese. So someone put his hand up. I went and got him over to the office. We spoke to him in Portuguese. But I didn't want to now send him the money and then not get the notes. No. Because he's not going to give it without having the money. So I needed to find via media how to figure it out in quite a distance. I said the best way would be is to uh, fly there, see for yourself. But then it was also tough going all the way just to get four of these notes. Then I I was talking about it. Then we had an architect that was from England who was doing a golf course in Prestige Golf Shire. He said, Mr. Razwan, I'm going to Portugal, to Porto. That's fantastic for what? He said, I got a yacht and I go there. So I said, can you do this work for me? Yeah, of course I can do it. So what he did was, I called the gentleman, told him that, you please take the notes, take a train from Lisbon, go to Porto, go to the yacht, meet up with this guy, and then you hand over. So rightfully he went. Then he asked me, how do you know they're real? I said, you show me the pictures. I'll tell you if they're real or not. And we exchanged, and this is what happened.
When was this?
This was, I think, 2008, I think. So, like that, once I was in Mysore for some work. We were sitting in a restaurant, and who's sitting there is Mr. Y.V. Reddy. He was with a lady, happened to be his daughter. I went and introduced myself. So he said, "Oh, you are the man. Come, sit down, have lunch with me." Then he said, "I have something for you." I said, "Yes. What is it?" So no, I want to give it to you. I live in Hyderabad. I said, "Okay. I'll have someone uh, come across. We have an office. Someone will come and pick it up from me." He said, "It doesn't work like that, Mr. Rizwan. Come to Hyderabad, have lunch with me or tea, and then I'll give it to you." So I went to Hyderabad, met him. He gave me a frame of all the notes that he had signed, and all notes with the number one, also number one. And I came back. Then somebody said, "You brought it. How do you know that he gave it? There's no autograph because it was a frame only. I think when he retired, someone presented that frame to him." So I went back again and requested, this time I'll come for tea, sir. I said. Went there, got the last removed, the notes removed, had someone take pictures to say that, he was the guy that gave it. He signed the frame on the frame. There was a pockets, and that he signed it. Came back, and now it's there on display in the museum.
Just a couple of insights that I got from the presentation that I hadn't asked you before. And then I will leave it up to the audience to ask the questions that I anticipate that they will ask. One is the difference we all know between a rupee, the 1 rupee note, and every other note is that the 1 rupee note is issued by the government of India. It's signed by the Secretary, Ministry of Finance. And every other rupee note is by the RBI that says, I promise to pay the bearer so many rupees. So if you take a 10 rupee note there, you get 10 of the 1 rupee notes, ostensibly. There's one difference. The initial ones had the phrase that I promise to pay on demand the sum of rupees so and so. The latest ones don't. What's the story?
Story is, see, 1 rupee actually acts as a coin books of the government of India. That's why it's signed by the Secretary of Finance. So when that book, 1 rupee book, was released, Mr. Shakti Kanta Das was the finance secretary. So that's the reason why I told him to come and launch the book. And fortunately, whatever, maybe he was lucky, I was lucky, he became the governor of Reserve Bank of India. To answer your question, every note, right from the very first note was, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of rupees so and so. The word on demand got taken off, I think in 1980 sometime, 1987 or 88 it got taken. Must have been a very clever bureaucrat. Because if everyone goes and asks for exchange of that money at one time, the government doesn't have anything to pay back. So now the question is, what are they going to give back? I promise to pay, so they can pay in kind. That's all they can pay. That nothing else. I have to pay Ramji. You can say, oh, Ramji's done some work for the government. He's done some legal work. We owe him so much, so you can take it from him or pay it to him.
That's too many Musambis to get.
Exactly. So it's a very clever way of taking up the responsibility. So the government is, first thing, is not also backed. It's fiat money. It's not money backed against gold as well. So what they're doing is they're printing notes at 1 rupee, 500 rupee notes at 1 rupee, 18 paisa, whatever per note, and then selling it to you at 500. So
That's been happening. Right. Yeah, we're not backed by the gold standard.
No,
we never
not
were
at all.
for a while.
That was taken off in 1835 itself.
Right. Now, prior to the second question I have is that prior to Sepoy Mutiny and prior to there being a central issuing authority for money, you had all these various banks that were authorized to issue the money. And they were all issuing money in different circles in India. So was it valid to take the currency could I take the currency from the Madras circle and use it in Calcutta?
No, you couldn't. Unless the bank had a branch where you could go to that branch and exchange it.
So it was foreign exchange, just like foreign.
No, it's just like a demand draft. It was like a demand draft or foreign exchange. But you couldn't go to Bank of Madras with a Bank of Bengal note and change it. No way. It had to be a Bank of Bengal. If they had a branch, they would exchange. And a lot of people, and very, very few such instances were there. And also, people should know that, opium was legal at that time. So a lot of this money was used by the opium traders as well. And I believe that there were government opium shops, like you have the cigarette shops around the corner. Not the Malayalis, but government. No. They had the sell the.
Thank you very much for that amazing presentation. The work you've done is just brilliant. Simple question. You didn't touch upon counterfeiting in terms of the design evolution of currencies. Did you have the opportunity to study the impact of counterfeiting on the design and the issuance of currency notes?
Counterfeiting was there from time immemorial, from time the first banknote issued by the Queen Victoria. That's why they changed the Queen Victoria series to the underprint series. They have many ways of doing it. But unfortunately, the government is getting more and more what do you call clever to make sure that such a thing happens. But a general public can be fooled. Even till today, what they do is, I know that you get a call saying that I have a note which is uh, 200 years old, and that I made it somewhere and then brought to say that I need to sell this. It's so nice. I even went to the counterfeiting department uh, at Nasik, and quite they're pretty good at what they do. And very simply they say it's done by the enemy country, but nothing of that sort. It's all done by the guys in India. Most, uh, the place where it comes from is Gujarat and Bengal.
I have a few questions. Maybe I should stand up. I have a few questions. First one is you didn't answer the question of why was the lowest denomination 4 Sikha rupees?
I did. I told you that's quarter of a gold mohar.
Right.
One gold mohar was 16 rupees. So quarter gold mohar became 4 rupees.
And why did they have funny denominations like 14 and 15?
14 was the rate of exchange in the Madras presidency. 15 was the rate of exchange in 15 was the rate of exchange in Bombay presidency. 16 was the rate of exchange in the Bengal presidency. Even though the rate of exchange was 14, 15, 16, the weight of the silver or the gold was proportionately that much less.
Okay.
1835, they said, it's causing a lot of problem. Let's have a uniform currency. So they changed everything from 16 to 15.
Right. Yeah. Okay. My last question. With regards to Burma, is it true that I'll make it a two-part question, but both related to Burma. Do they have a different exchange rate? Somewhere I read that it was 5 to 4. Is that true or not?
Nothing like that. But you see, what happened was Burma was using the British India money. Then the Japanese went into Burma. Then they had the Japanese money which they printed in, I think, crores. And that actually caused a little stress in that system. But the British India money and the Burmese money, there wasn't any difference. But if you ask the same thing for Hyderabad money to British India money, there was a rate exchange. 117, near 116 point something rupees of Hyderabad gave you 100 of British India. And same way I told you about the Portuguese, it was 60 scudos gave you 5 rupees, 12 is to 1.
Right. And is this the same reason why the note changed from a side profile to a front profile of George VI?
No, that didn't change because of that. It changed only because there was a lot of during the war, the Second World War, the Japanese were printing British India money. So there was a lot of fakes that were coming in, but looking real. So they wanted a change. So what they did was they changed the look. They also added a strip, what we call as a magnetic strip. Only thing that didn't happen was everything changed. The side profile remained the same for 100 upwards. Up to 100, the profile changed from side to the front.
This one great presentation. Some of your collection must be invaluable, right? Going back hundreds of years, etc. Have you ever had your collection valued?
Actually, that's a question that a lot of people ask. Because moment I get it valued or know the value of that money, there'll be fight between my children. One. Second is, I'm so attached I don't want value. For me, it doesn't have a value because I've already made that and it's left for as a legacy for the future. I've also formed a trust so that it's there. I was even offered to have this museum situated at the post office, the foreign post office, which is on Museum Road opposite St. Joseph's, beautiful building. I only didn't take it because, after I'm gone, somebody might say, no, it belongs to them. So I said, let it be in my control, and that on the second floor. And It is invaluable. There is no doubt. But only thing is, I have not paid today's value for it. I've done it for the last 60 years. So some I've got for nothing. Some I've got as gifts. Like one story, I'll tell you. One friend of mine, and I was missing a 5,000 rupee note. What I showed you in the 1978, the one that got demonetized. One specific one that was one circular issue was missing. So this guy comes to my office. He's a friend like you, Arun. He comes and says, Rizwan. I said, what? I got something for you. He leaves the envelope. I open it. There's a 5,000 rupee note inside. He said, this is for you. I said, well, thank you, but can you tell me more about it? He said, they had a friend of their family, Raj Kumar. He was a Hindi movie star. So there was their family. So his mother, they are very affluent Marwadis from Calcutta, stationed in Bangalore. And I think his mother gave that to him as a gift. So they found that uh, envelope after he passed away, a few years after he passed away. They found that saying that, it was given by these people. I don't want to take names, that's why I'm being secretive. So they said, the children said, since it's of no use to us, give it back to the persons who gave it. So they brought it back and gave it, and that came to my table. So like that, things do happen.
These 60 years that you talk about, what sparked it off? There's a story about the
This-
Pakistani.
yeah,
Rupee.
Pakistani rupee was the one because the 5 rupee note that was there and saw it with the blue stamp. I couldn't understand why a Reserve Bank of India is a Pakistani note. I couldn't just understand. Because what people did was, on that note I showed you, had the government of Pakistan, Hukumat of Pakistan. That very cleverly, when they went to Pakistan and came back, wasn't getting encashed in India. So what they did was took a blade and scraped off the government of Pakistan. So it looked like any other British India note. But when they went to exchange it, that the bank had the serial, the number, the prefix number, and whatever. Then they said, no, this is. Then they saw it's been scraped off and it's fiddled, so they put that note so that it doesn't go again. But no one could give me this answer. So that's what got me interested, and also maybe uh, got the tickle my thing that I must research. I've spent hours and hours and hours in the British Library in the India office under invigilation with camera on top so that I don't whack anything from there.
This is the St. Pancras one in London.
Yes, they have a lot of files. Even now they have it. But same thing, I'm told there is a parallel archive in India, but they won't let you go. They won't even touch it. They should actually digitize it and let it be there for all to hear and understand.
Well, everyone has your museum to go to, so that's good enough. And for any James Bond aficionados like myself in the audience, he actually has in the museum the James Bond rupee, the one used by Roger Moore in Octopussy, right?
That's actually a fake one. It's just a prop note. It's not a fake one. It's a real note. It says Bank of Indapur. But to look at it, looks like a note. I don't think they wanted to use the real money, so they had the prop money. You do still get prop monies in Amazon. Reserve Bank or Children Reserve Bank or something. Reserve Bank of Children.
Can I? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation and the anecdotes. So I have a small two-part question. So the first one's on the sunken notes, the sea sunken notes, which I find particularly fascinating. What were the challenges with preserving those? Because I'm sure they were found in a very different condition. And the second one, perhaps, Ramji sir, since you do the History of Bangalore podcast, there is the very beautiful State Treasury building, but right here in Bangalore, but there's very scant information on the internet about it. So if there's any place that I could probably find more information about it, I think that would be
Okay, I'll
nice.
answer the first part, and Ramji will answer the second part. The first part is that I don't know if many people know that the paper, the substrate, actually is cotton. They make the paper from cotton. So strange thing is that even though that even the Hyderabad notes that was underwater for more than 12 years, they came out clean and neat and not dirty as well. So water doesn't affect. In fact, if you put your current money, try it if you want. You can put it in your shirt or pant and then put it in the washing machine. You can dry it; it becomes straightened. Nothing will happen. Nothing happens to it. So it is pretty strong. And what if you take the earlier money, the Victoria portrait money or whatever, that would have been in shreds. Of course, if it's not preserved well, paper is such that it can powder as well.
A clarification I have on your question. You were asking me whether you can go to the state treasury offices. Specifically about what? About the building itself or about what's going on inside? Okay. So that plus a whole bunch of other buildings in Bangalore, it's very, very difficult to find any information at all. It is highly frustrating. I have tried to find out the location, the etymology, if you like, of some of these buildings. I've gone into the archives, state archives. I've done everything that I could and just come up with a blank slate. That's all. I can't even find land records. My grandfather owned what is right now the the Mercedes-Benz showroom on Kasturba Road. That belonged to my granddad, and he ran a dairy farm over there. This side of the wall, he made milk, and the other side, some guy made liquor. All right, you can't find either of them right now. And I have not been able to find out anything about his records. I've tried. So, if you're trying to find out more about it, please let me know when you do. That's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the books are still in print or are they out of print?
Honestly, sold out.
Are you
And I'm
planning?
not doing another issue, reprint of it, because the lot of the information is outdated, requires updation. The easiest thing is to update it and reprint it. But then I'm in the process of bringing a new book itself. It'll happen in time, but there are books available. Of course, at a higher price. That's all. If you Google it, you'll find it on eBay or Amazon. Someplace you will find. But
Okay.
there are some copies in the museum, which is the special edition, which comes with the leather case and leather bound and whatever. I think those also are very few left.
And on that note, please join me in thanking Mr. Rezwan Razak and Ramjeet Chandran for this evening full of lesser known facts about Indian paper money. Thanks to all of you for being here. Please enjoy your weekend.